The Bigfoot Researchers Journal. Today we got a great show. We're going to be looking at the J.W. Corbett Wildlife Management Area. That's in Palm Beach County, Florida. But more specifically, we're going to be looking at the exact areas that if you were to get in your car and drive where I'm going to show you, you would literally be within a couple hundred yards of a clan of Bigfoot. There are several different clans within the J.W. Corbett Wildlife Management Area in Palm Beach County, Florida. It's connected to basically all of the rest of the important habitat. This is John C. and Mariana Jones, right? And you can see right here, this is the last video we put out, right? So it's connected in all a part of that forest chunk. It's like the last bastion of forest and wilderness areas, and they're connected, and then there's communities that border, and that's what we're looking at right here. These are those prominent. I paid over $1 million for my house, and I love to play golf and keep my stuff private and no trespassing and all that. They lock themselves down here, right? But these creatures can throw rocks to hit these people's houses, and when they get pissed, they'll eventually cross this little canal right here. And they'll go over here and cross the highway, and they'll be all up in these people's yards, jumping in their swimming pools, tearing their screen enclosures down, and nobody's going to be able to do anything about it, right? This is the week, and it's interesting, this is the week that people are reporting 10-foot creatures in Miami shopping malls, right? Hundreds of cops scrambled, black choppers. They shut the airport down. Yeah, over a little brawl between a couple of neighborhood teenagers. Like, come on, bro. The reality of our situation in South Florida is we've built our communities and surrounded many of these clans of wild giant hominoids. J.W. Corbett Wildlife Management Area is one of the areas that my wife and I started researching. And the reason we started researching here is it seemed like a really good fishing spot. And it is just that simple. When I looked at this place, I thought, I don't really know much about this area, but let's take a look. So we drove in, and you have to take this long road the back way, right? See, this is the back entrance, and the entrance is right here. I've tracked Sasquatch on this trail right here. I found evidence of a trackway with quadrupedal locomotion, like where this guy was down on his hands and still somehow, obviously we're dealing with those longer arms, managed to maintain a tightrope stride, a tightrope gait, 1 foot in front of the other, even though he was using his knuckles. Human beings can't do that. I know, I tried. This is the trail. In fact, he was standing, the Bigfoot itself was standing right here behind these bushes looking at this gate. His first tracks were here, and then he jumped 12 feet, and the next track was going in the other direction. So he was standing here and off 1 foot with no evidence of another foot strike, landed this way, dropped down on his knuckles, and ran all the way down this way. When he got around this corner, right here, he got back up on 2 legs and just stood up and started walking off, in which we tracked him off into the bushes, I think on this side over here. But they watched this guard shack, and one of the reasons they watched the guard shack is this is where they'll dump some of their guts and their remains from their kills. The leftovers from the hogs, the deers, guys bring their coolers here and they dump it here. So what do we have going on? There's a grocery store right here. So when you go in J.W. Corbett Wildlife Management Area, understand you don't have to worry about going all out in this and all, getting lost and dying and getting killed by an alligator like that guy almost got killed a couple years back here. And he was just right out here hunting. And gators will wander through the dry areas that you happen to be walking through while they're transiting from hole to hole. So they were coming through here, these people, and this is a hypothetical, and the gator was crossing and just snatched a guy and tried to take him to the next hole. The wife had to fight with the alligator for her husband. This is where this happens, right? So you always got to be careful. This is real Florida. This is not, screw around time. You're out there looking for Bigfoot, and you think the noise in the bushes is a Bigfoot, so you go sticking your head in the bushes, and it gets clamped down by a 12-foot alligator. There you go. See this pond back here? This is an interesting aspect of what goes on in this area. We have activity and recorded activity and trackways, sightings, and creatures caught on film right here. This is the guard shack, or the check-in shack for the place, right? It's a couple bucks to get in. But anyway, one of the first things that we learned about this area, investigating it, was that they don't want you to go in on this trail. Yet they really want you to contribute and pay and go in. So make sure you don't use these back ways, because you're not supposed to, man. We want to keep this park going, so pay and then take the trail. You know what I mean? It's about I don't know, half a mile or something hike, but you can hike all the way through here, and you get to this trail over in here, and all of this tree line is their habitat. All of this is their habitat. So the whole hike, as you're coming through here, you can find tracks. You wouldn't believe the activity right at the front of the park, right? This is where, for 4 years, my wife and I researched this group. I put out maybe 75 to 100 movies. This particular strip of land right here is isolated by 2 canals. You see this? One canal right here. It's like more of a ditch, and then here's a canal here. This is called no man's land. The creatures live on this island. Do not get caught on this island after the sun goes down. Do not get caught on this trail or anywhere in these woods after the sun goes down. That's a no-no. I can tell you firsthand, the creatures are much more aggressive when the sun goes down, and they like to get right up on you. So it's a situation where you're because of their behavior for the first time, right? The daytime, they act completely different, but at night, boom, this is a dangerous area, right? So these spots, if you hang around these spots enough, and you're really serious about, documenting the creatures will eventually reveal themselves to you. Typically, they do it with like an irritated emotional state. They'll throw something at you. They bombarded us constantly from this position here. We would be over here and on the bank down by the water, and from these trees we witnessed them hunt squirrels over here. From sitting over here, we watch them shake squirrels out of trees, and you can literally sit on this bank, and the creatures will approach your position. And so going in these areas, you've got to have your head on straight, and you've got to take the necessary steps to make sure you go in the right way, because this is harassment central. We literally have caused them, from our research and putting films out and being, meeting with Palm Beach County officials about what we found and discovered in here. They eco-engineered this bend. This used to be a much more drastic bend in the trail to where you couldn't see down it. They came in and removed some of this corner so that they can put cameras in here. So this is all being filmed, and you should know that when you go in here, if you try to enter into this area and you don't pay and get a ticket, you're brought up on camera, and the officers respond with live photos of you standing in here and doing your research. They're very concerned about what goes on in this corner particularly, because it's exposed to a public entrance over here in the slough area. Now, this particular parking lot that you're looking at right here, I had a Bigfoot sighting, and the creature was standing right here. We left the vehicle and proceeded down this road, and we were going to take a hike out this way. When about right here, I noticed there was a huge square shape. It just looked like a square shape, like a 90-degree square on the side of this bush, but it was really big. And I looked over again, like kind of looked up as I was putting taking a drink or getting my coffee, something, and this thing walked off, and Melanie was coming up, and she heard it, and I was like, there it is, and so she got to hear it walking away, and it walked back this way. The reason it walked back that way was typically we would head down, and in this area right here, we would try to interact with the creatures, because you can hear these things if you just hang out in this area long enough. and you do it enough, first of all, you're going to get to meet all the officers that we tell you about that like to, try to dissuade you from being in this area, right? For no reason at all. You have a camera. You're a danger to no one. You're a hiker, right? But unfortunately, hikers go missing in here. Campers go missing in here. In 2015, we were coming out of this particular region right here. We had hiked in using the trail over here, and we were in this area, and Mel and I had really had a rough day. We had creatures sounding off, and we heard the bushes all around us, and we were having trouble nailing them down. They were running circles around us, and we decided to leave. When we were leaving, the FWC was speeding down this road right here and all around the area, several different trucks. I flagged one of them down because they seemed like they were in a panic. And I'm like, what's going on? And he said, we've had 2 different campers from 2 different campsites 2 days in a row go missing, and we can't find either one of them. Now, we just came out of the bush where we were surrounded by hominoids and recorded vocals, and we played that in an episode of the Bigfoot Researcher's Journal. We had captured something on film. We weren't sure what it was, but it resembled one of the creatures I had seen at this point through our research campaign. So we knew people were missing. We knew they were in here with us, and this was starting to get to the point where it was too much for us. We had an encounter right here. There's a huge banyan tree right in this area. And I walked down here and I heard a noise. And I just took a step right over here and looked over. And man, something enormous took off into these bushes. Well, Mel and I were in here the following week, and we found a structure down here on this bank. And the sun started going down, and we were trying to get out as fast as we could. Well, you're not allowed to use this area to go in, but of course you can exit the forest where you need to if you're dehydrated or whatever, you want to get to the nearest road. So we exited here, and there is no law against that. The sign's very clearly labeled no entry, not no exit. And so, like I said, if there's a law against leaving the forest somewhere when you're frightened that you're going to get attacked by an animal, point it out. We left the forest, and as we did, individuals followed us down this tree line. We were on this trail right here, and there were people, enormous people, walking in the bushes at a 45-degree angle behind us down here. So we were in this position, and they were right about here. But they followed us all the way from that shelter to this corner right here. And when we got to this corner, and I stopped, they rumbled around in the bushes quite a bit, and Melanie and I were astounded because of the obvious nature. It was as if whoever this was down in here was trying to scare us out of there because it was working, right? Well, I got mad. In situations where is a fight or flight situation, I don't typically run. I typically turn and fight, and it's just my nature. And I went down in here because I was about to kick somebody's rear end, because I figured there was homeless people trying to scare my wife and I. And when I went down in here, several different people were in these bushes all around me, and one of them was actually up near the bank, and Melanie was standing right on the side of this road right here. And while I was down in here, and it was dark too, man, one of these big people, threw about a 7.5 foot, probably 8-inch round dead tree branch out of the bushes, and it came in a big arch over the saw palmettos and busted across my chest and knocked me on the ground. Camera came out of my hand and everything, and I was back up, man, in like 2 seconds. And I'm trying to film, and you can hear him. Whoever it was started to move off through the bushes, and it's on camera. And then I realized standing there that the other ones were present. This guy took off, and this guy took off with this guy that was leaving. They were all around me. Now, when I came back up to the bank, Melanie said there was one right here, and it was still there. All I wanted to do was leave. After what I just witnessed, and I knew it, I saw huge apex, huge shoulders on 2 of these things in the moonlight as they skirted through the palmettos. They were sticking up above the palmettos when they moved off through here. This was the solidifier, and initially, what drove us into understanding that these guys are in here. And that started a campaign that spanned about 5 years until essentially we got harassed out of the area by the FWC. The creatures are in this area and prolific in that this entire edge of the park is occupied by creatures. And if like I said, if you spend time on this back trail, and getting there is the real problem. If you spend time on this back trail, you'll find tracks. It's sand. And there are several spots. This particular spot we call the sand trap right here. I've pulled 35, 40 different really large hominoid tracks from this area. Juvenile tracks, what appears to be male and female with children tracks. And they're all hominoid tracks. They're not human tracks. They display the characteristics of having been out here and not wearing shoes. And like what you see in the signs out here is absolutely amazing. But this particular side here is track city, man. And getting to it is very hard. And this area floods, and they like to keep it flooded to keep you from getting here. So you really got to be careful when you're in here. I had a sighting down here of a creature through the lens from about 500 yards away. I was out literally in the sand trap right here, stepped out, set up my tripod, and shot down this way because we caught movement in this tree line. Just looking down there, it looked like some big thing was moving. So I set it up, shot the creatures right there. Mel and I, upon subsequent expeditions, decided to go in further, so we took mountain bikes and we went down this way. This is the second or third visual sighting I had of a creature in here. We were nearing the third canopy, so we were somewhere in this area. You can see there on this no man's land track, you've got canopies. They're set up, and you can see they go down. So we label them in numbers. And we understand exactly where we're at in conversations based on our numbers because we've been there so many times. So we're in canopy number 4 or thereabouts, but we're on this trail. Melanie's in front of me about 40 feet, I'd say. We're approaching this area, and I start hearing movement, and I mean big movement. Now, it was actually up in front where Melanie was, but Mel kept going, and I could hear her saying, "I hear it, I hear it." This individual took off running through these trees. Melanie was about here, I was about right here, and I caught a glimpse of something busting out of here. And we rode our bikes all the way down past this canopy and in this particular area. Through here, he was still. We were up in this area, he was at our like 5 o'clock position. Paralleling our position, running next to us on the bikes. Right about here, I noticed the end of the canopy and that there was an open spot. And so I stopped and got off my bike, and the individual exited the canopy, and he was going through the bushes running. It occurred to me that it had just suddenly stopped. And I looked over, and right there in the bushes was what I would say was probably around a 9-foot chimpanzee man. It looked like a man combined. It looked like a troll combined with a man combined with a chimpanzee. He had gray, like a mid-toned gray skin on half his face. That I know now was, because their faces are so angled, it was in shadow. And the other half of his face looked like chrome. He was standing right in this area, and he was looking at me as I stood on the bank. And the second that our eyes met, he spun around and took off. We jumped back on the bikes and kept going. That encounter right there taught me that these creatures don't always look human. The Sasquatch that I had seen up to the point where I had seen this guy the day of the bike ride, I'd never seen anything like this. This was like a creature, not what people describe a Bigfoot. It had a very elongated face. The head itself appeared to be elongated from the ears down. Like the lower jaw had completely different proportions than what you would say Patty had. This particular area is off the chain, man, and there's a lot of it. You can get lost and go missing in here. You can disappear in the JW Wildlife Management Area. We've taken every one of these roads into the back, and one of the most interesting aspects of the JW Corbett Wildlife Management Area is this levee back in this area. I've literally seen enormous creatures on the other side of this little pond here. There's a fence and they won't let you go over there, but you can see what's going on. I literally saw something right here, and as I walked up to the fence, I heard the creature getting into position to look at me. You can hear these huge things over here making all kinds of noise on the silence. So I started to look at what was going on satellite, and do you know that this particular block is isolated by a canal? It runs all the way around it. It's isolated by water. Isn't that interesting? We're not sure what this plot is. Is it a hunting track? I don't know. Appears to be, some agriculture of some type. It could be citrus, more than likely. It could be tomatoes. It could be cocoa plums. It could be mangroves. I'm not sure. But we do know that there is a considerable amount of property in this particular area, and it is occupied in this corner. I can speak to that because I've witnessed what I would say was probably something around 10 feet tall. Moving, first heard it move up, and then witnessed it upright, 10 feet tall, huge. But it was in the bushes, and you couldn't really tell what it was because it just looked like a giant shadow of a giant. But here it is moving through. And at this time, we didn't understand that they were achromatic. We understood that what we saw was an albino, and that what we saw and what we were continuing to see had gray skin. But we didn't understand the drastic effects that diffusion has on that achromatic gray skin. We didn't understand that. This was before that. So I was looking at what I thought was like, a ghost or something. But it was obviously 10 feet tall. This particular area has a history of sightings. I personally know 6 different individuals that grew up here in West Palm Beach that have had encounters in the JW Corbett Wildlife Management Area. And again, JW is connected to Dupuy. Yes, there's some agriculture, and yes, there are dividing lines, and you can see they're very obvious, and they're physical. You're going to always find these canal tracks and then these tracks with water because we're dealing with agriculture that borders all of the hominoids habitat, and a lot of the agriculture gets cut into by the hominoids habitat. This is typically sugarcane, and I would venture a guess that if you were to get into these far reaches of this particular area, this would be the north end of JW. They usually call it the Hungry Land Slough, so it has like 5 different names. But this north end off 710 up in here, this is your bogey right here, man. This is prime habitat for hominoids. And what we've noticed is from our studies that a lot of the human activity is centered around hunting in this particular area. And so the hunters like to go into the area. And there are designated camping spots within the JW area here that you can, check in and go camping. You can see they're calling it the Everglades Youth Conservation Camp. They used to call it the Boy Scout Camp. It's not called that now. But back in here, there are campgrounds. And these campgrounds, as I've stated, have had missing people. And the press was not covering any of this. It was hushed up really quickly. Like you can't even find it online. I think only one of the reports was available, and it was still under mysterious conditions why they never found the people. So one guy I think they did find, and they never would give us the cause of death. Was he ripped up? Was his neck broken? What happened? We don't know. They don't tell us. So we're dealing with an area that's connected to the John C. Mariana Jones Hungry Land Wildlife Area. This place has had 20-something people go missing or bodies found. I mean, this is a horror fest in this place right here. Two years ago, there was a guy found. Initial reports were that he was torn apart. Then the narrative changed 4 or 5 times, and that's up here in the Hungry Land area. Then until finally he was a criminal and he got what he deserved. That's what they said about a guy that was found ripped apart. They changed that story so many times. What we're dealing with is the area that is adjacent to Palm Beach County and the city. So just west of it. And then we've got the western, more ritzy sections, Wellington, Royal Palm Beach, and then further south you're getting into Lake Worth and Lantana. And then you work your way further south and you're getting into the Boca Raton area, Delray, Boca Raton, and Fort Lauderdale. But down in here, we're looking at some really interesting opportunities for research that we'll be covering on the next episode. And this is, again, just part one. We're going to be going over encounters and specific locations here in JW forever. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions about our research or where you can research, hit me up, cryptoreality.us@gmail.com, and I'll help you out. Have a great day, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.